Okay, Caroline, great to see you again.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Good to be with you. You had a busy week, and just the last week since we've talked, you had Patty Murrin with you at the White House press briefing, and I could tell on your face that day, and since what you posted on social media, that was a day that'll stick with you for a long time.
For sure. For the rest of my life. It was an emotionally heavy day. It was a very sad day. And was so proud to stand next to Patty. As a mother, I cannot imagine walking in her shoes and feeling what she feels every day, the heartbreak and the anguish over the loss of her daughter, and to just stand beside her as she shared so eloquently the story of her daughter's life and her tragic death was something I will never forget. You know, they say sometimes you forget words, but you'll never forget how a person makes you feel. I will never forget how Patty Morin not only made me feel, but the feeling in the briefing room was something, I've never experienced. She left the press speechless.
I noticed
and that was a first.
I noticed that. And it seemed to me what was so impressive about her, not a scintilla of anger. Even though she's entitled to it, there was seemingly none. She had such a grace about her. And it was kind of a refreshing change from sort of the vicious pit viper den that you speak to in that room. It really, as you said, it defanged them.
Now, I don't want to speak for Patty, but I spent a lot of time with her before the briefing, and then after we had dinner together later that evening. And she's a woman of faith, and her faith is what leads her life, especially now, I think, in the wake of this tragedy that has happened to not just her, but her whole family. She has 5 grandchildren who no longer have a mother. And so I think she's a woman of God and a woman of faith, and that has helped her through some of that anger and hurt that she initially experienced. But she's using her voice for good, and she is changing the world. I told her that. You're changing the hearts and minds of people around the world with your words and your daughter's story, and God bless her for doing it.
It was not unnoticed at the very same time, and you made that point from the briefing room. You have a United States Senator in El Salvador. I think we all see it, and I think the polling suggests it. The American people are not interested, and you've said it repeatedly, they're not interested in bringing this guy back.
No.
President Trump expressed on Truth Social, we can't have 200 years of individual trials. I know this White House is frustrated with the Supreme Court's recent decision. Can you speak to that?
Look, the Supreme Court, we are confident and hopeful, will ultimately rule in the president's favor when it comes to the Alien Enemies Act and the deportations that this administration is trying to carry out, because the president is acting within his executive authority as the powers vested in him as president of the United States. And all we are trying to do is enforce our nation's immigration laws. And Abrego Garcia is a perfect case of that. This is a man who illegally entered our country in 2012. He was here illegally in Maryland for 7 years. In 2019, a court ordered his removal. 2 separate immigration judges in courts affirmed his gang affiliation. He has tattoos proving his gang affiliation to MS-13, which is one of the most vicious gangs on this planet. These are not the types of people the American public want in our country. And we need to be a nation of laws. So he was deported back to his country of origin, where the president there has said that's where he shall remain, because he is an El Salvadorian national with ties to this vicious gang. And he needs to be locked up, and that's where he is.
Are you, as a communications strategist and expert, I must confess, not that you're here to aid Democrats, but that they're dying on this hill when there are so many other things, frankly, we could be talking about as a country. Do you marvel at the fact that this is where they're camped out in messaging?
Yeah. I said to our team, we're blessed with very ignorant opponents who have clearly no idea what the American public want. I mean, 89% of Americans in a recent CBS poll said that they support the deportation of all illegal immigrants who have committed crimes in our country. 89%. I mean, you can't get much more public support for a policy than deportations of legal criminals. That's what this administration is doing. So we are not going to waver. We are not going to cave. We are not going to apologize for doing what the American public want us to do and for enforcing our nation's immigration laws.
News yesterday, China said, I know Vice President Vance in India, as you and I speak. He gave a speech this morning before the Prime Minister and other government officials there in India. It seemed to me he was very clearly reaching out and making the case, hey guys, your neighbors, they don't mean us well, any of us. do business with us. China's threatening other countries now over trade. Don't do business with the United States or else. What are we to make of China's threats?
Look, the United States is the best place in the world to do business, and the whole world knows it. They need what we have, which is the American consumer. They need our money. They need our market. The president knows that, and he's using the leverage of the United States and our economy and the American public to our own nation's advantage, to do what's right for the American worker and to cut fair and balanced trade deals. And I think you're going to be hearing about some of those very soon.
You see the Walmart executives, Target executives, I understand, at Home Depot executives are here to meet with the president today. The market movements, does this outside stuff, it doesn't seem to move the president. He seems pretty resolute. Are these outside market forces and the negative news around it eventually going to cause the president to back away from this, or no?
The president knows exactly what he's doing. He is focusing on negotiating good trade deals for the American people and the American worker and American industry as well. And if companies want to evade these tariffs, there's a way to do it. Do your business in America. Make your product in America with American hands. You'll pay no tariff, and you'll have some of the lowest tax cuts in the world, tax rates in the world, once President Trump signs his tax cuts into law, which he's working hard with Congress to do. So that's always been the president's plan. Low taxes, low energy costs, less regulation, more prosperity and growth, and more money in the pockets of the American public, of small business owners, of workers, of CEOs, so they can hire more and pay more. We want to see wages increase. We saw all of this happen in his first term. It is possible with the economic formula that the president has implemented once, and he's working on doing it again. And look, as he said, there's going to be a period of transition. The previous administration ran our economy into the ground because they spent money like drunken sailors. So the president is working on rolling all of that back, slashing the wasteful regulations of the last administration. It takes time to do, but trust in Trump. That's why the American people elected him back to this office.
You mentioned Congress. They need that big, beautiful bill passed. We got to get it here to the president's desk. I know the White House is waiting on it. Are you feeling confident? Is the president feeling confident they can get there? The Senate seems like they don't, right now, they don't seem they can get to the cuts the House wants. How do you read it?
Look, we're going to let Capitol Hill and Congress do its thing. The president has a good relationship with Speaker Johnson, a great relationship as well with Senator Thune, and so we want Congress to get this done. The president's made it clear.
It's critical to the economic package overall that they get this done.
Absolutely.
Though. Has to happen.
Yes, the president's made it clear. One big, beautiful bill.
By Memorial Day is kind of what his ask was.
As
you think
soon
they'll
as
get there?
possible.
Let me also ask you about the fact that before the Supreme Court right now, Karoline, is this discussion about parents taking their kids out of LGBTQ activities in school. You have a baby, eventually he'll go into a school one day. Can you imagine not being able to withdraw your child from that kind of stuff?
Yeah. One would think parental rights should exist in this country. The president is strongly on the side of parents on this one.
And women, finally, I'll let you go on this question. Women in this country today, what would you have them know about this issue of Democrats dying on the Hill also, of men making the best women and competing against women and being in their private spaces?
I'm glad you brought it up. There was a fascinating article in the New York Times this morning about how the Biden administration, Joe Biden himself, agreed that men should not be in women's sports, but he pushed it anyway because the far left has completely captivated the Democrat Party. So you have a major party in this country that is pushing for men competing against women in biological sports. It makes no sense, and they know it. President Biden knew it, but he lacked the courage to actually say it or do something about it. President Trump has the courage to do what's right. He is making common sense common again, and he signed a very strong executive order to keep men out of women's sports, and we've actually sued the state of Maine for refusing to comply with that executive action. So we are not going to allow biological men to compete against females, not just compete, but threaten their safety on the playing field as well. This is a safety issue for women. It's a privacy issue as well. And I know that there are millions of women across the country who are cheering President Trump on in this fight.
You were always so generous with your time. It is great to catch up with you again, Karoline.
You too, Chris.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.